For centuries, man and beast were interlocked in battle. As the seas roared, the fragility of life hung in the balance. The largest from the sea and the bravest from the land met on even playing fields, but with unfair advantages. The whaling era claimed many lives, both whale and human alike. No other species was hit as hard as the mightiest of them all. Brought down right to the edge of extinction, blue whales once numbered over 300,000. Before the turn of the 20th century, they were so rare that nobody thought they'd ever be seen again. These are their stories. Here are their triumphs. This is their battle.
You sitting up here, you have a fantastic vantage point. So please, I encourage you just to keep your eyes open. We are crossing an amazing body of water, the Santa Barbara Channel, as we make our way out to the Channel Islands National Park. My name is Holly, one of your crew naturalists. It's our destination, only an hour to get you out to the east end at Santa Cruz Island. This national park includes... I find the work of being a naturalist is extremely fulfilling. We have visitors out here to the Channel National Park. This is their maybe one and only time out here. So as a naturalist, we really get to enhance that experience. We of course allow Mother Nature to speak for her beautiful self, but we get to just provide some really important information about the natural history of the whales and the dolphins we get to see, but really that conservation message. And that message is all about our responsibility to keep our oceans healthy, to keep the diversity of our cetaceans thriving. Here they come. There's some racing on over on the port side or left side. So you see just the splashes all around us. What a really fun way to start off our morning here in the Santa Barbara Channel. We're gonna go ahead and pick up a little full speed, so just a friendly reminder, make sure you're holding on here. There are times here in the Santa Barbara Channel we get to see these incredible feeding frenzies, almost a National Geographic moment, where off in the distance it's the birds that are giving away the feeding activity as the different species of seabirds are diving down at the surface. As we get closer, we might start to see the dorsal fins of the common dolphins and California sea lions that are swimming through, and then a spout or a lunge feeding whale might come up in the middle. So just such a diversity of animals partaking in this incredible feeding frenzy. So you get this overlap of biodiversity from the invertebrates, from plankton, invertebrates, to the fish, to the cetaceans, to the whales, dolphins, and porpoise. So just the abundance in the sense of seeing about a third of the world's whales have been sighted right here in the Santa Barbara Channel. From the smaller porpoise to all the variety of dolphin species, including the largest dolphin, the killer whales that we see here in the Santa Barbara Channel. And then of course our baleen whales, some of them that migrate through from their breeding to feeding grounds like the gray whales, to the other baleen whales that are here to feed. This is their favorite restaurant here in the Santa Barbara Channel. This year has been particularly exciting with the number of blue whales that have been in close vicinity here in the Santa Barbara Channel right off of Santa Cruz Island. There's one, there she blows. Blue whales are so massive, the largest recorded down in the southern hemisphere, over 100 feet long and weighing over 150 tons. Very obvious when we see a blue whale because you see the blue glow under the surface. Just to give a size perspective, their tail alone is the width of a small Cessna airplane. There's nothing like seeing the shimmer of a blue whale on a bright, sunny day. This has been my best year of seeing blue whales here in the Santa Barbara Channel and coming out here for over 30 years. My favorite part of working out on the boat out here at the Channel Islands is just to get to see the excitement on the passengers' faces after coming across a blue whale. Blue whales really capture everybody's excitement because they're so rare. Some populations, like our population here in the North Pacific, isn't really increasing at a fast rate. So when we do see a blue whale, we know it might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And it's extremely fulfilling to share that excitement and to really encourage those passengers to feel a part of the protection of our whales. We still were hunting whales at an international scale. The decade I was born in the 60s, we harvested over 700,000 whales around the world. And those include all the great whales, so the sperm whales with the different baleen whales, but especially the blue whales, since we now at that time had the technology to keep up with the fast-moving blue whales and the mechanisms to harpoon them successfully from the front of the bow. So the Save the Whale movement of the 70s, the International Whaling Commission putting in a moratorium in the 80s. Finally, by the 90s, you see the growth and popularity of whale watching, and it really was a big shift for whale conservation. So once again, just in the last 25 years, do we really get to witness an increase of whales. For most species, we just hope the blue whales are given the ability to continue to thrive off the California coast and still to answer the question on why aren't their population increasing at the same rate we see some of the other species like humpback whales. Whales today are really considered these ecosystem engineers. They are enhancing our world's oceans and productivity, and that's all through what we call the poop loop. These ginormous whales are diving down the water column, feeding for the most part at a deeper depth, and then coming back up the water column, mixing those nutrients and bringing a lot of those nutrients at the surface. And then at the surface is where they're going, the bathroom. So a lot of the whales release their fecal matter at the surface. This is the fertilizer, and that fertilizer then are the valuable nutrients to the tiny little microscopic plant plankton called phytoplankton. So phytoplankton, like trees on land, need nutrients and they need the sunlight. And the sunlight is providing the energy for photosynthesis, and that system is then providing us with the oxygen that sustains us. Well, we love to say every other breath we take is a gift from the ocean, from those phytoplankton, and those phytoplankton are thriving in areas with whales that are pooping. So to think that the population of blue whales was down to less than 1% by the 80s, we lost this tremendous importance of the ocean, of this whale pump that happens all around the world, especially in these feeding areas. So with an increase of whales that we've seen in the last 40 to 50 years, we're starting to really value the importance of these whales as these ecosystem engineers. It's enhancing the productivity of those who then depend on the fisheries and are making their own livelihood out of the abundance and diversity of the marine wildlife. As amazing as it is to see a large group of feeding blue whales in the channel, when you take a second and look up, you see the real issues these whales face.
Our blue whale research really started in the Gulf of the Farallones, and we weren't expecting to see them, so it was a surprise to us. And those early years, 86 to 88, when we first encountered blue whales, it's just, wow, they're here. What are they doing here? What's their population size? Can we estimate that with the photo ID data? The very first year we did blue whale photo ID in 1986, I think we got something like 30 unique animals. And we thought, wow, That's incredible. Can you imagine it? 30 blue whales. And we had no idea that that was just the beginning. When we began our work in the Santa Barbara Channel, and especially starting around 92, that's where we started to see numbers where you would run into 20, 30 or more blue whales in a day. And that kind of blew our minds. And still, some of the biggest blue whale concentrations we've ever seen are in areas like San Miguel Island. When weather conditions allow you to cover areas, we've had stretches that are 6, 7 miles long where we will see over 100 blue whales. And that still remains some of the kind of densest blue whale concentrations we had ever encountered up to then, and still would be a really impressive sight even today as we kind of study other areas as well. As we began to see we could more regularly encounter blue whales, we began to expand the studies into other parts of their natural history, and that's where deploying tags gave us insight in how they were feeding underwater. We also expanded our studies to better understand how certain human activities impact them. So increasingly we're using the tags to look at how are they distributed, what is their behavior at day and night. We noticed in our early research that some of the areas we were encountering blue whales regularly, like the Santa Barbara channels, were also some of the busiest shipping lanes. So we were starting to become aware of that overlap. It wasn't until the mid to late 2000s, and particularly 2007, where blue whale carcasses started to be either discovered wrapped around the bow of ships or washed up with this sometimes cryptic evidence that they'd been hit very hard by some blunt force, which turned out to be ships, that we realized they were at large risk of ship strikes. Blue whales and to some degree fin whales represent species that are particularly vulnerable to ship strike. And blue whales, I think, because they tend to feed in these areas of high productivity, which often are associated with the shelf edge. And so that brings them kind of closer to shore in some areas. And in the Santa Barbara Channel, that shelf edge that kind of runs along the Channel Islands also parallels and overlaps these shipping lanes coming out of the busiest harbor we have on the US West Coast. That concern about ship strikes zeroed into that region in particular, this area of regular high blue whale occurrence, and now some of the busiest ship traffic. But really up and down the West Coast, it was clear ship strikes were a growing issue. The shipping traffic became more numerous, the ships became larger, and the ships became faster as a trend, going really from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Over time, we've seen this explosion in how much goods travel by ship. That was a growing and serious issue for blue whales. A lot of our work has focused around how is the blue whale population doing, and we use a couple of methods. The photo ID, identifying individuals, is key, but then we need to employ certain mark recapture statistics to kind of calculate, okay, if you see 100 whales this year and you see 100 whales the next year, it's basically working from the how many of those are the same whales. And by looking at that, you can try to extrapolate, well, how many more whales were out there that you didn't identify at all. And we can use that as a way to estimate population size. The one that we're most comfortable with and have the most confidence in is coming out with a fairly stable number around 1,500 blue whales, is the eastern North Pacific blue whale population that regularly visits the US West Coast. And the main things we've zeroed in on of what makes blue whales more vulnerable to ship strikes is, first of all, their large size. So they're really big. 2, their areas of concentration overlapping with ship traffic, especially in these kind of upwelling areas near the shelf edge. Next, they spend a bunch of time at the surface, especially at night, right in the zone that would be vulnerable to being hit by a ship. And finally, when we monitored their behavior, they took little to no evasive action in response to a ship. And some of these near collisions we were able to document, sometimes with one of our blue whales that had a tag on it, see a ship come through and go right over the top of it with no course change by the blue whale, to avoid it. So I view ship strikes as the main present known mortality, and then we know the ocean conditions are changing, and we know those have big effects on blue whales. Is it positive or negative? Is it kicking in now? Those are the questions that we don't have the answers to. I mean, one of the more remarkable things about the Santa Barbara Channel and the Southern California white is the incredible juxtaposition of these areas of high human density, high human activities, and these amazing populations of whales. Many of those people have no idea that we have this habitat out here supporting hundreds of blue whales just sometimes right within sight of the coast. So it's kind of a remarkable juxtaposition, that shows ability to coexist on one level. But then the flip side of it is, it does expose those whales. I am optimistic in a lot of ways. The attention that has gotten focused on ways to try to reduce ship strike risk. I think we haven't taken anywhere near the measures we need to. But now there's been a more than 10-year effort to try to find solutions.
My name is Sean Hastings. I work for NOAA's Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary based here in Santa Barbara, California. And my role as the Policy, Information, and Management Officer is to develop programs to protect and conserve the amazing diversity of animals and maritime history around the Channel Islands. And in the Santa Barbara Channel, we're so fortunate we have one of the world's largest concentrations of blue whale populations, and we also have some of the busiest shipping lanes on the planet. And so my charge is to somehow balance maritime commerce with whale protection. And I think we found a way here in the Santa Barbara Channel.
It looks naughty out west, but hopefully it's way down. We're here in the heart of the Santa Barbara Channel. It's whale season. Humpback, fin, and blue whales are here to feed. And while they're here, we want to do everything we can within the sanctuary to protect these animals from fatal ship strikes. Now, this ship behind me is 1,200 feet long. The biggest blue whales we have in this region are 80 to 90 feet. That's a 10 to 12x difference. And unfortunately, when a whale is in proximity to that ship, if that ship is going too fast, the risk of a fatal strike only increases. Traveling at 10 knots reduces ship strike risk by over 50% to these endangered species. Fortunately, companies like Yang Ming are slowing down and participating in the Protecting Blue Whales and Blue Skies program. You can see there's no wake behind this ship or coming off the bow. This company is agreeing to voluntarily slow down to the NOAA, U.S. Coast Guard, and Environmental Protection Agency's seasonal request that they travel at 10 knots when whales are in the channel, when whales are off the California coast. And if we can protect just one pregnant blue whale, we're doing our part to bring whales from the brink of extinction to have healthy whale populations in the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. In 2014, a coalition of national marine sanctuaries, California Air Pollution Control Districts, the California Marine Sanctuary Foundation, and other NGO partners created the Protecting Blue Whales and Blue Skies program, where we recognize, incentivize, and celebrate the shipping lines that voluntarily slow down. The companies receive positive public relations, and we bring recognition to companies that are willing to slow down for the environment, thus reducing the impacts of shipping on our planet, on these great whales. This 1,200-foot ship is carrying containers, 10,000 containers from many companies also enrolled in our program. And each of those containers are all the consumer goods that Americans want. The companies that sell those products are encouraged to become ambassadors of protecting blue whales and blue skies, further incentivizing the shipping lines to slow down when whales are present. We are partnering with corporate America that understands there's a more responsible way to bring consumer goods, to bring our products to California ports. This is a perfect illustration of where commerce and conservation can coexist to reduce the risk of ship strikes, reduce the emission of harmful air pollution, reduce greenhouse gases. And when you look behind the ship and you see that there's no wake, That means their prop is turning nice and slowly and consistently, which is reducing ocean noise. Our whale friends depend on sound in the marine environment to communicate, to find each other, to find food. And so by reducing vessel speed, by these companies agreeing to adjust their schedules by a few hours, they are reducing the impacts on not just whales, but the air quality that we breathe, the greenhouse gas emissions that are emitted into our planet's atmosphere. Really impressed with Yang Ming, a company that's been enrolled in the Blue Whales, Blue Skies program from the very beginning. They are slowing down not just this one ship, but their entire fleet. Over 85% of the total distance they travel in the vessel speed reduction zones off California. They do this because no company wants to hit a whale. We know these whales are only here for the summer season to feed. And when the blues head back to Central America with the humpbacks behind them, stopping in Mexico, or when they move up to Alaska for more food, we want to protect them wherever they go. These ships have long distances to travel between California, Oregon, Washington, and back to Asia. And so wherever ships and whales and coastal communities intersect, we are working to expand protecting blue whales and blue skies. The Blue Whales, Blue Skies program is showing there is a way to both have maritime commerce and ocean conservation. Yang Ming Wellspring, Yang Ming Wellspring. This is the Velella off your starboard beam.
Bella, please go ahead. Wellspring.
What channel, sir?
You can go to 06.
Wellspring, this is the Velella off your starboard beam. My name is Sean Hastings and I work for NOAA's Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. And I just want to say a big thank you to you and your crew for transiting at a whale-safe speed. There's a half dozen humpbacks in the channel as we speak, and we couldn't ask you to do anything more than what you're doing right now. So again, thank you to you and your crew, and thanks to Yang Ming for participating in the Protecting Blue Whales and Blue Skies program. Over.
Thank you for your appreciation. We'll maintain the same 10 knots and less than that. And we also love animals and whales.
Thank you, Captain.
The Santa Barbara Channel is a truly special place, not only because of the whales and dolphins that call our backyard home, but because of the people that have devoted their lives to its protection. Because of research groups like Cascadia Research Collective, because of programs like the Blue Whales, Blue Skies Initiative, and because of our responsible ecotourism companies that take people out to see these great whales, we were recently designated a whale heritage area. We take immense pride in our cultural connection to this place and strive to pass our love of the ocean on to the future generations. We're unsure what the future holds for our oceans and the giant blue whales that call it home. With warming ocean temperatures and more ships crossing our oceans every day. But we can guarantee that we will do everything we can here in the Santa Barbara Channel Whale Heritage Area to advocate for its protection.